The Steelers are probably our biggest rivalry for a myriad of reasons, but pure hate is the Ravens. I hate the Ratbirds. Tony, are you on the same wavelength? I can't stand Baltimore.
Oh yeah,
Hate them.
definitely. As someone who's been only around for 23 years, because that's how old I am, all the history I've gotten to see of the Ravens winning Super Bowls, that should be us. Like that is our team. And while the history and the rivalry is with Pittsburgh, I agree the hatred is with the Ravens because that is all the success that they had. On the opposite, they caused all the failure that we had because our team just moved there. So, lot of bad feelings for those stupid Ratbirds in the purple and black, and definitely a good chance to let that anger out Sunday.
Exactly. It is a pure hate thing this week. Tony Camino there. I'm Andy Billman here. You can read all of our content, including the 4 key matchups, which we are going to breeze through now. Tony, I think this one's obvious. It's the matchup of the quarterback. That's the lead story, as it should be. And it's got an added twist now for both ends. The Ravens have injuries everywhere. Wide receivers are out. No OBJ return. Another wide receiver is out for them as well. And the Browns, everyone's playing except for one questionable for Deshaun Watson, which I think is a bit of poker. I'm actually going to take the lead here. I think it's gamesmanship. I don't know why Stefanski said hopeful. I get it. I guess he's just trying to one up Harbaugh, but it is the matchup between Watson and Jackson with a lot of questions. But I'll lead it off there. It is the matchup that'll watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a big one, especially you look years since both of these guys have entered the NFL. Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson. Those are two of the biggest names even in college football. Deshaun being questionable is not great. It's a little interesting because it seems like he's questionable, but he's not really questionable. He's more like
Right.
probable with like that 80 to 90% chance of playing. He might be a little bit limited because that shoulder seems pretty banged up, but at the end of the day, we still need him to come through in the passing game a little bit, whether that changes play calling or not. But on the Ravens side, Lamar has played very well these last 2 games, but it's a new offense. It's moving pieces around him. No Odell, no Bateman. His best receiver is playing, and Mark Andrews is now playing more after missing a first week. But it just comes down to holding your own in this position. I don't think Deshaun needs to come out and outplay Lamar for them to win, but he can't completely let Lamar steal the show and have Lamar go for 250 and another 100 on the ground while Deshaun only goes for 230 on the ground.
I agree with what everything Tony just said. I don't want to see this. But if DTR were to come in a game, I'd be like, gosh, that's not good at all. But I still think the Browns can win. If Lamar Jackson goes out, the Ravens are done. I mean, game's over. I mean, it is. It's just the game's over. It's that really simple because of high level the Browns are playing on defense. To me, this matchup is everything. And it's more on to what Tony said. I agree. It's more on Jackson. Jackson has to play well. Jackson actually has a lot more responsibility right now because he's also one of their lead rushers. In fact, I would argue he probably is their lead rusher because of the injuries at running back. It just puts all the pressure on him. It makes for a favorable matchup here for the Browns. Not because I'm saying Watson is far better than Jackson. I think they're even, to be honest with you. But what I'm saying is the pressure is on Jackson. Jackson really has to perform. He has to spin the ball. He's going to have to make some passes. He's going to have to get Andrews open in this game and get him to get the ball and go far. And he's going to have to make some big runs. Deshaun Watson, really, to me, it's like do what you do, a normal day of like a touchdown, hopefully 200 plus yards, and no interceptions, no fumbles. That's my key for him.
Yeah, I agree completely. And that's kind of just how the team is structured at the moment. The Ravens, basically, since Lamar's taken over, have been Lamar Jackson needs to perform well or we're probably not winning the game.
Right.
The Browns do not, at this point, we're not relying on Deshaun, and I don't think we ever will rely on him. Now, I would like him to return to keep playing at that level he played
Of
last
course.
week. That's our best chances, obviously. But with this defense, if he can just make the right plays and not turn the ball over, we're gonna have a great chance to win.
I agree. I agree. Again, Deshaun, questionable, but we both believe he's going to be playing, and we'll have to see as the game plays out. One more thought on the passing game for the Browns. We need to start alluding to the weapon that is Amari Cooper. I've been awoken by him last week. This guy does not get enough praise. He is a very good to great receiver. And because he's not flashy and he is not boisterous, he does not explode. He is not your typical wide receiver when it comes to emotion. I think sometimes he gets forgotten. Cooper is having a great career so far in one season and 3 games into this year. He is just a wonderful player, Tony. Real pro.
Yeah, really is. And it's kind of crazy to look at. If he goes for 1,000 this year, he'll be the first Browns receiver to have 2,000-yard seasons with the team. And that's just now there hasn't been a ton of talent in that position. You probably Webster Slaughter's probably the best we've ever had. That 1 year of Braylon Edwards was great before he
Gordon.
started dropping every pass. Gordon,
Right.
obviously. Gordon
Yeah.
would have been, but other issues with him.
Right.
So just seeing a guy with the talent of Amari Cooper, and it's crazy because he's overlooked by seemingly everyone. The Raiders moved on from him, and he went and exploded with the Cowboys. And I understand the Cowboys moved on because they didn't want to pay both him and CeeDee Lamb, but letting him go for a 5th-round pick seems unbelievable. To get that kind of production, you're not going to find a fifth. If you can draft a 5th-rounder who's going to give you half of Amari Cooper's production, you're taking that as a win.
Yeah, he's a very smart player. Amari Cooper, I'm going to say it again, is a very smart player. And we got him for a steal. He's just a wonderful player, and he really helps out Deshaun Watson. The other big matchup that I was alluding to Tony before we hopped on is the coaches, actually, between Stefanski and Harbaugh, who are very similar, ironically. They're both analytical minded. They're both risk takers. Harbaugh is about the only one, Tony, I can think of. Stefanski rolls the dice a lot. Boy, Harbaugh's right there. Harbaugh loves to roll the dice. He loves to take chances. He'll do fakes on punts. He'll do at the same time Stefanski will. Ironically to me, and I'm going to take the lead here again, I would hope Stefanski this year can realize if it's 4th and short and you're in the Ravens' end, it might be time for this year to kick because you have a competent kicker in Hopkins, and you also have a defense so you can punt the ball. That's my one big heat of warning here. In past years, it felt like it's almost a competition, and it's weird. Both coaches have made poor decisions on risk, and that teams end up losing. Harbaugh 1 year had terrible decisions in Cleveland. They lost. And Stefanski's had many against Ravens too. And it's funny. Whenever the other coach is conservative, they seem to win. It's very weird to me. But that said, I really hope in this game Stefanski knows you have a defense that's so good. You may just need a punt to get field position. And you know what? If it's around the 30s, give Hopkins a chance. I just think that's the rule this year. Going into this year and past years, it's always been aggressive. And you kind of get it. Cade York was, ugh. And you know what? Your defense was shaky. So I get it. Tony, I'd hope this year it's maybe a little more conservative. Punt or kick the ball, not necessarily have to go for it in those key situations, which always seems to come up against the Ravens for some reason.
Yeah, it always does. I'm usually on the boat of being aggressive on 4th down because
Yeah,
you should always have that ability to gain 1/2 a yard.
sure.
But this is kind of a rare instance where I actually agree. They should be a little more conservative. The defense is right now historically elite, and it's only been 3 games. But you have to trust them. If it's 4th and 1, and you just can't. The offense cannot hurt the defense. No turnovers and no loss of field
Right.
position. If we can keep the defense in favorable positions, it's going to be really hard for the Ravens to win.
That's right.
So I completely agree with that. Even though in the past, the more offensive led teams, like the running attack we had that opened up the pass game, going for it on 4th down was probably the better options. Now, I like the offense still. I trust the offense still if they do go for it, but it's probably the better call just to keep the defense in the best position possible and make sure that they're okay because they're going to get off the field in 3 plays or less more times than not, it seems like.
It's so true. Just keep it simple. This is a year you have your defense leading the way. It's not because your offense is terrible. It's just the defense is that good. Let your defense win the day here because I agree. I think that's the key in this game. The Ravens have a lot of questions on offense right now. J.K. Dobbins is out. Wide receivers are out. And you're putting all the pressure on Lamar Jackson, similar to what we've seen in the past with Myles Garrett on defense. Similar here with the Ravens. It's a quarterback or bust. There is not. I don't fear anything here outside the tight end. The tight end Andrews has always killed the Browns, so I do fear that a little bit. My last thought on this game is, Tony, this is a year, and I will go out and make a big guess here, but I think I'm going to be right. Wouldn't be surprised if JOK is a big day here. JOK usually performs well against Jackson. He usually does really well in these games. He has had a very good start to the season. I think this is a big showing day for him. Would not be surprised if he got some extra pops in this game. And I think he's going to have a chance to really elite level into the national spotlight kind of deal. I really do. I think JOK is going to have, I can see him having that kind of day on Sunday.
Yeah, I think his speed matches up perfectly here, as he's probably going to be in a guy who's in those quarterback spy situations or keeping contained in the pocket, because Lamar is going to use his legs to make plays. That's just who he is. He's a dynamic player. But JOK is one of the guys on that. The Browns have a lot more speed this year, but he sticks out as that perfect combination of speed, but also the ability to tackle in space. And so when he can get Lamar in those kind of situations, he's probably our best bet at stopping him. So the Browns run a lot of man defense. I expect that to continue against the Ravens, maybe not as much. But when you run man, you usually have one of your linebackers either playing a zone or playing a spy. I think JOK is going to be that role pretty often on Sunday, and I think he can do great at it. He's been great at it in the past. He's always seems to have success against Lamar.
Yep, I agree. I just think it's JOK's day. Delpa too again, and Delpa's captain obvious, but I think those are the guys really watching this game. I normally don't feel this way. I don't know why. I feel very confident, probably because the Browns defense is playing so well. And I just saw a great performance, but I kind of see it rolling here, Tony. The Ravens, they're playing at the right time. Ravens have a lot of wounded birds on this team. I mean, the injuries are everywhere. It's obvious. It's been a national story this week, not just about us in Cleveland here, but it's been a national story with the Ravens being banged up. That said, hopefully that's not motivation for them to play well. But I just don't see it here. I think the Browns win 21-6. I think they keep it low scoring again. I think it's under double digits because of what they say, maybe a couple kicks from the Ravens. I think it's going to be not a sloppy game, but a grinding game. So I see 21-6, something like that.
Yeah, I'll give the Ravens the benefit of maybe getting in the end zone. I'll say 23-10. The best thing about this year, which the defensive players have to love, the years past with Greg Roman calling plays and his offense in Baltimore, everything they did things completely unique, unlike anybody else in the NFL. A lot of two running back, two tight end sets, very funky pistol formations with two tight ends and a running back, runs where they're pulling guys all different directions and the tight ends are pulling back. All that's gone. New coordinator Todd Monken. They're a much more traditional offense now. You're not while they're not. That doesn't mean they're not going to be effective. They're not going to just run it down our throats out of confusion.
Right.
Their offensive line's not great. Their running backs are depleted, and I think the Browns should shut down the running game. And as long as we don't get burned by the only receiver who really scares me outside of Andrews is their rookie Zay Flowers. He's been playing very well. But we've got the guys to get there. It starts with the front like it starts every game. If the D line can stop the run game and pressure the quarterback, everything else is going to fall in line.
Newsom's back too in this game. I think that makes a big difference here.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Can't believe I'm saying it. I just don't see it unless Lamar Jackson goes off.
Right.
If Lamar Jackson goes off, Tony and I are having a very grumpy week.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't see it here. And then I'll finally say it again. Don't turn over the ball. Just keep the ball on our side. The Ravens are very opportunistic, as are the Steelers. If they start seeing the ball come out, it usually comes out in bunches. By the Browns hanging tight to that ball. That's another way I can see us losing this game. Other than that, I don't see it here. Really don't. Advantages across the board. Tony does all sorts of great work throughout the week on BelievingLand.com. So do I. Please check it all out. Obviously, go to @official Cleveland Sports, 9 a.m. Sunday. We'll be there to preview the Ratbirds versus the Browns. And then throughout the whole week, we'll be doing all sorts of things on Official Cleveland Sports as always. And then finally, check out BelievingLand.com too for Francona stuff. He's retiring. He goes away. Who's the next manager up? Cavs basketball opens its doors. Even though the Browns are off, it's a busy week in Cleveland sports next week, and the Buckeyes are back too next week. Tony there. I'm Billman here. Go Browns. See you next week.